How does Magnus Carlsen, the best player in the world, sacrifice his queen? Well, we're going to find out. Introducing his opponent, Etienne Bacrot, French number 3, world number 57. Magnus, he's 30. Bacrot has white, Carlsen has black. E4, E5. Knight 3, Knight C6, Bishop B5. This game took place in the FIDE World Cup. Both sides have 1 hour 30 minutes, plus 30 seconds per move. We have the Spanish opening, A6, Bishop A4, Knight F6, Castle, Bishop E7. We get the closed Spanish. Rook E1, B5, kick the bishop away, Castle, and now after A4, black goes Bishop B7. D3, D6. So both sides, they have this pawn structure towards the center. White now plays a very strange looking move, Bishop D2. The point of this is to stop the knight going to A5 to attack the bishop on B3. Queen D7. So then the rooks are connected. Also, there is this idea. Knight back to D8 and to E6. A cool way to actually reroute this knight. Because this knight is not actually on a good square because there's a pawn in the way. Knight C3, you attack the pawn, but now it actually gives black a chance to attack the bishop. Knight A5 is now possible. Also, the queen defends that pawn. Bishop goes back. C5, getting space in the center. So lots of arrows, but the point of this is both sides are fighting for central control. Black fights for the D4 square. White fights for the D5 square. Central control. Knight E2, you attack the knight, you come back. Also, this knight can come to G3 to F5. Typical moves in the Spanish. The way to reroute this knight over. Knight back to C6, knight G3. Coming into F5, this bishop on A2 looks very strong. D5. Now this move, it might not be possible because it looks like Carlsen might be hanging a pawn. Take, take. Knight and rook attack the pawn and only black's knight is defending it. But this is a typical move in these kind of structures. You actually give up a pawn because your pieces become very active. So this is known as the Marshall Gambit or typical Marshall compensation. This isn't exactly the Marshall opening, but the pieces are on basically the same squares. C3, you control. D4 and B4, good move, C3. So Etienne, he's not taking the pawn yet. Rook D8, pressure on D3. Now the A file opens up. Take, take. Now he goes for it. Take, take, take. You may have been thinking, why not? Why doesn't he defend it? It's not actually that good a move because after F6 you give white this extra option. Knight can actually come into F5. The queen can come into G4 or to H5. The reason this is now possible is because this bishop doesn't control that square. This is a very passive way to play, so he sacks the pawn. Take, take, take. Bishop D6, you attack the rook has to go back. You cannot take this knight. That's a blunder because after take, take, now you take. Take, take. You are a rook for a bishop down. Bishop D6, rook E1 played, and knight F4. Knight and this bishop attack G2. It just looks so dangerous, so you take it off. Take, take. So this is typical Marshall compensation because black is down a pawn, but he's got the bishop pair, which compensates for that. Knight E4. Good move from Etienne. He doesn't defend the knight. What's the point in defending this pawn when it's backward? It's not a great pawn. So knight E4, you attack this. Queen C7. Cool move. You get the queen out of the way. And you attack H2 as well. And you defend. Queen C7. Good move. G3. Drop it back. F4. So one disadvantage is F4. It really does weaken the king. Bishop back to D6. And now Queen H5. So white is still a pawn up, but you got two incredible bishops, which always are going to be active. 25 minutes for black, 31 minutes for white. Queen C6. And after Queen H3, which looks like you're just retreating the queen to guard this square. Queen H3, to be honest, I don't know what that does. I don't know why Etienne played that. The queen looks very active on this square. Oh, okay. Maybe in the future. F5. And then queen is going to come in. That's why he tucked the queen back. F5 isn't possible here at the moment because the bishop faces the king, but it's gonna be possible soon because you're gonna lock it up or you tuck the king away. So I believe that's why Etienne put his queen back to h3. But why is this a blunder? Because now you shut out the Spanish bishop. c4. This bishop has no good square. It's not going to come back in the game anytime soon. d4. Rook e8. f5 coming next, opening up this diagonal. d5. Why did Etienne sacrifice a pawn? Because he's going for a tactic. Queen takes. Rook d1. Now you attack the bishop. But what does Carlsen have in mind? He's going to sacrifice his queen. Bishop c5 check is actually possible. King has to go to f1 and queen c6, and we keep playing this position. Even bishop b1 is possible. You might even take the bishop first, then bishop b1. But no. After this, Carlsen sacrifices the queen. By the way, 4 minutes 29 for Carlsen and 8 minutes 04 for Etienne. Rook takes e4. Wow. So what's happening here? Take, check, and after king f2, this is under attack. This is under attack. You can't go here because you lose it. So you defend it with rook e8, and with this move, you're actually threatening mate with rook e2. You can't take this because it is mate all of a sudden. This bishop controls f3, g2, and rook e2 is mate. So after rook e8, looks like Carlsen is taking over. He was a pawn down, but he had martial compensation. Very active bishops, active pieces. It's like it's worth being down a pawn in this line. Rook e5, so he cuts it off. Etienne cuts off the coordination among the two rooks. Bishop takes rook. King takes that rook. Bishop takes c3 check. Discovered check. It's like double discovered check from the rook and the bishop. The king moves away. I tuned in. I saw this position live and I saw queen d7. This could be a problem. But I think Carlsen's next move is probably the top move in this game. Because how do you stop queen d7? There's one good move and Carlsen, he played it. Bishop back to c8. It's a very difficult move to see because it's a backward move. You have to play a move that attacks the queen because white is going to take your bishop next. Bishop back to c8. Queen moves to g2. Now bishop f5. Wow. Cool move here. Bishop f5. Carlsen, he doesn't even move this yet. And let's actually have a look at why. So I'm going to play through this and then just see why he doesn't move it. I think it's just a 2-move combo. Yeah, that's it. Check. Game over. If the king moves, check. And then check. Game over. Take, take. And black is up a bishop because this can never get back in the game. Black is completely winning. So bishop f5. Great move from black. Queen d5. You attack both. Bishop e6. Attack it. And now queen c5. The point of queen c5 is you got to control a dark square. If you played this move, which I blundered, bishop h3 check. And it's game over. The king is running out of squares. It can only go to g1 or to f2. If you come up, check. The king can only come up now. All the red circles show all the squares the king cannot go to, so it can only go to f3. And now rook e3 check. The king has to go back. And a really cool discovery, rook b3 check, and then you pick up the queen. So that's the point. After bishop e6, you cannot grab the pawn. You have to go queen c5. That pawn is not as important. Bishop takes b2. He grabs another pawn. So you still can't do this. King out the way. Bishop d7. So Carlsen now defends the pawn. Queen d5, you attack both. Rook d8. Such a sneaky move. What a sneaky move. If white does nothing, bishop h3 check is going to pick up the queen. Queen c5. Etienne now blunders. He puts the queen back on this diagonal, which it was there 2 moves ago. One cool move is actually g4, because you stop this check. And the game goes on. So one example, you could play bishop f6. It defends the rook, then this bishop can move later. And then black, in order to win this, he's got to find a way to get those pawns moving. King g3, get the king out the way, and then the game goes on. But in the game, after rook d8, queen out the way, bishop f6. Black is now winning. But how do you win this? Let's say bishop b1. Get the bishop back in the game, it's doing nothing. g6, you block it. Etienne now goes g4. offering pawn for pawn. If you take my pawn, well, I'm going to take the dangerous pawn on b5. That's what happens. Take, take. But this pawn now pushes c3, f5, and g5. And that's it. Amazing. Bacrot now resigned. White cannot actually do anything. What's black going to do next? He's going to go d2 check, c2, and then he's going to win the bishop. So let's say you go queen b3 to stop it. Check, king up, and h5. And with the king on this square, bishop e5 is now mate. So let's say you stop that with queen b5. Can't go here because that is mate. Queen b5. Well, even though you stop mate, you're going to lose your bishop, c2. Take, take, and we've got rook, 2 bishops, lots of pawns against the king. Game over. Time for a quick summary. I'm going to highlight the points that you can use in your own games. So, how do we play like Magnus? We get a closed Spanish, bishop e7, b5, and now this kind of position, d3, d6, queen d7, attack the bishop, and c5. So, black is getting the center. Central control with this pawn. Knight e2, bring the knight back, and now you want to play like Magnus, or you want to play like a martial player, you got to sacrifice a pawn. The position was closed, but now it's open. You got to play active. Take, take. c3. Rook d8, he's not defending. What's the point? Don't defend it. Take, 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 take. Bishop d6. So this is where the pieces are in the martial. Bishop on d6. b7, knight on d5, rook in the middle. Really, in the martial, this queen is actually on d8, and then the queen can actually swing out to h4. That's just one difference. Rook e1, knight f4. Cool. Take, take. And we have the martial. Bishop pair, you're down a pawn, so what? Your pieces are so active. Right, here we go. Let's keep playing, and queen c6, lining it up. And c4. Cool moment. Your pieces are so active, you make your opponent's pieces unactive. c4, you shut out the Spanish bishop. Sacrifice the pawn by Etienne, and you sacrifice your queen in style because your pieces continue to be so active. Rook e8, white cuts it off, but we get this transition, and here we go. Bishop c8, attack the queen. Right, bishop f5, another brilliant move. By the way, here is a bonus variation. I'm glad you stuck around for this. Rook d8 works. I want to show you this wonderful combo. Rook d8. Now what happens here? Check. Well, king e2, now what? You attack the rook, you're down a queen. Check. King comes up, now what? Check. King comes up, now what? Bishop f3 check. Because after take, can you see the winning move for black? I'll give you 3 seconds. f5 check. Done. And you pick up the queen and you're winning. By the way, I just want to show you something really funny. Bishop f3 check here. Here, I thought bishop e6 wins on the spot, because bishop d5, you're going to pick up the queen. But the funny thing here is, what do you think white can play here, just to get out of it? I'll give you 3 seconds, or you can pause the video now. What do you think white can play? You can actually just go king e5. That's the move I missed. It just looks so weird. Your king's in the middle. I think the last thing I would think about is moving the king even further into my position. By the way, you can also just move the queen out of the way, which is funny. Check. And now the king comes up. Check. The king can hide. Second brilliant move of the game. Bishop f5. Queen d5. And here we go. Get that pawn. Rook d8. Very sneaky move. Threatening bishop h3 check. Queen c5 blunder. Coming back. The reason it's a blunder is you just move the pawns. He chucks that pawn for pawn, but you push, game over. And here he resigned because check, h5, threaten mate, check is good. If you stop it with queen b5, and you are just up too much material. Magnus won the next day against Etienne, so that means Magnus, he is through to the semi-finals of the World Cup. By the way, here's YouTube's suggestion for what to watch next. But if you don't like their option, you might like this World Cup video. How did Carlsen play against the Sicilian defence? If you don't like that choice, you might like this one. A totally different kind of video, a bullet video. Carlsen beats Firouzja in 21 seconds. Thanks for watching.